Fantastic. Hello, everybody. Welcome to United Lodge of Theosophists San Diego, here for the Aquarian series. Today's presentation will be given to us by Jonathan Colbert. Before we start, a reading. This by Shankaracharya, entitled The Bliss of Shiva. I am neither earth, nor fire, nor air, nor ether, neither sensory powers, nor all these together, as all of these are transient. I am he that remains alone in deep, dreamless rest, the secondless, supreme, and attributeless bliss of Shiva. I am neither caste, nor its divisions, neither right, nor rule, nor am I the fixed mind or mood or mental exercise. This entire illusion of I and mine is rooted in the not self and is wholly dispelled by the cognition of the self. I am the secondless, supreme, and attributeless bliss of Shiva. I am neither mother nor father, neither the gods nor the worlds, neither scriptures nor oblations nor shrines. In deep, dreamless rest, I am neither abandoned nor in a state of absolute non-existence. I am the secondless, supreme and attributeless bliss of Shiva. Neither the Sankhya doctrine, nor the Shaiva school, neither the Pancharatra, nor the Jaina, neither the Mimamsaka, nor any other standpoint is cognition of Tat. Through perfect union, my holy, pure nature is void of all but the self. I am the secondless, supreme, and attributeless bliss of Shiva. I am neither above nor below, neither inside nor outside, neither midward nor forward, neither before or behind. I am indivisible and partless and all-pervading, like space. I am the secondless, supreme and attributeless bliss of Shiva. I am neither white nor black, neither red nor yellow, neither stooped nor stout, neither short nor tall. I am of the formless nature of self-resplendent consciousness. I am the secondless, supreme and attributeless bliss of Shiva. There is neither teacher nor teaching, learner nor learning, neither thou nor I, nor this empirical universe. I am universal self-consciousness, the reality which is untinctured by any modification. I am the secondless, supreme, and attributeless bliss of Shiva. For me, there is neither waking nor dream nor deep sleep, nor am I conditioned by any of these states. All three are of the nature of nescience, but I am the fourth beyond these three. I am the secondless, supreme, and attributeless bliss of Shiva. All this universe, being other than the self, is unreal. The self alone is complete, constituting the ultimate refuge, self-established and self-dependent. I am the secondless, supreme, and attributeless bliss of Shiva. Say not that it is one, as there can be no second, nothing other than that. There is neither uniqueness nor commonality, neither entity nor non-entity. This secondless one is neither void nor plenum. How can I convey this supreme wisdom. We give you our very own Jonathan Colbert.
Thank you so much, Monica. The way you read that, it's just so beautiful, so moving. It really is. Okay, can you see my screen?
Yes.
Yes. But how about in Zoom land? Can they see my screen? Oh, you can't. Okay, it's good.
Yes.
Zoom land. It's been tested, so we're good. Oh, good. Well, thanks again, Monica, for launching us on this journey, this sublime and wonderful topic of Shiva and self-regeneration. And it says in our lead quote in the almanac, Korean almanac, that Shiva, the Mahayogan, is the supreme exemplar of effortless asceticism and the highest creative meditation. So, as you can see, this is going to be a very elevated and exalted, subtle and sublime topic. And it is in celebration of the Vigil Night of Shiva, which is coming up in the middle of the week. Who is Shiva? Why are so many millions to this day in India and in the worldwide Indian diaspora so unconditionally committed to Shiva and so transported by the phrase, Om Namah Shivaya, Om, I bow to Shiva, the auspicious one, the supreme self? Shiva is reverenced by millions of Shaivite Hindus as the quintessential paradigm of spiritual discipline, of asceticism, of renunciation and regeneration. In our contemplation today of a metaphysical reality, who is a bridge between the transcendent and the immanent, between heaven and earth, we will explore some of the reasons why this sphinx-like and enigmatic figure is so spiritually compelling and psychologically therapeutic. And in attempting an answer to this question, we will try to fathom the depths of this quote from Sri Raghavan Iyer, which reads, Shiva, the Mahayogan, is the supreme exemplar of effortless asceticism and the highest creative meditation. The principal sources for this presentation are no less than Madame Blavatsky, 19th century theosophist, and Sri Raghavan Iyer, 20th century theosophist, and Sri Shankaracharya, the 8th century scholar, philosopher, and teacher of Advaita Vedanta. Here's a picture of H.P. Blavatsky. Look at how pure and intense she is, almost how Shiva-like. Same thing here, the purity and the intensity, almost Shiva-like. So the attribution of these sources are not meant as any kind of final authority, but instead a simple acknowledgement of whom I had received inspiration for this talk. Shiva is, on the one hand, called the auspicious one, and on the other, the destroyer, and who is one of the three major deities of Hinduism, along with Brahma, the creator, and Vishnu, the preserver, and who altogether comprise the sacred Hindu Trimurti. Now, speaking of two hands, on the one hand, Shiva is the omniscient yogi who lives an ascetic life on Mount Kailash. And on the other is the householder with his wife Parvati and his two children, Ganesha and Kartikeya, actually his two sons. But there are also 5 daughters, one of which is named Sundari, meaning the beauty of Shiva. The prominent iconographical attributes of Lord Shiva are 1, the third eye on his forehead. Also, we can see the snake, Vasuki, around his neck. And there's the adorning crescent moon and the holy river Ganga flowing from his matted hair. And most importantly, his aniconic, meaning abstract and relatively unadorned, representation in the form of the Shiva Lingam, signifying that Shiva is himself, in essence, formless, limitless, transcendent, and unchanging. Shiva is totally indifferent to earthquakes, cataclysms, and geological changes. Untouched by everything, he is the immovable rock. Seated in contemplation, Shiva assumes a posture which represents mental and spiritual heroism. He is the archetypal man of renunciation, and at the same time, he is also the archetype of every seeker. Engraved within his sphinx-like face is Shiva's turning of human souls towards the mysteries. For some, he is an ideal. For others, he is an object, an icon, a murti. For students of the secret doctrine and the Gupta Vidya, he is also an actual hierophantic yogin, the paradigm of all yogins. He is the paradigm of the perfect human being who is fully and universally self-conscious. Contemplation of Shiva involves going within, symbolized by silence rather than any form of speech. He is the strength and the stamina to enter a series of self-regenerative meditations. He is spiritual self-regeneration for the sake of humanity and for the sake of the future. Shiva indeed is in another part of himself, Vishnu, and another part Brahma. What for a human being is a full lifetime is like a moment for Manu. What is a lifetime for Manu is like a day for Vishnu. What is like a lifetime for Vishnu is only a day for Shiva. In the Shiva Nataraj, the dance of Shiva, he becomes a living link between Parabrahm and Ishvara, and between the unmanifest and the manifest logos. Shiva carries the drum, the cyclic beat of time, but he himself stands outside of time. Yet Shiva is also accessible to each human being, including the most sinful and depraved. Shiva can be seen constantly at work, destroying the froth of complacent illusion. Ofttimes garlanded with skulls, he dances in the crematorium. He has the capacity to reduce delusions to ashes. He helps to transcend one's mental and conceptual maps, the luggage of various religions, belief systems. Shiva represents the pristine seed of new beginnings, rooted in fearlessness. There's a Sufi poem. Earth relieves the seed and guards it trustfully. It dies. Then what teeming life rewards it for self-sacrifice? Shiva is the universal self of all life. Shiva is Fohat, the very cohesive force itself in all systems, equally the forces of anti-cohesion and dissolution in all systems. Shiva represents nearly all things in the English language that start with the letters R and E, like re. This is because the orbit of the sacred is inherently revolutionary. It starts with RE. Revolution is Shiva. Reincarnation is Shiva. Rebirth and renewal are Shiva. Redemption and regeneration are Shiva. Just so is renovation. Recycling is Shiva. The cycle of return is Shiva. Returning where? Returning home is Shiva. Redemption and regeneration. Oops, I got lost.
Still the RE.
Yep. Returning back to one's true nature as a godlike being. This is Shiva. Returning home to the one source is Shiva. Shiva is returning home to the Om. Shiva represents the whole cycle of sacred vows and commitments, and of course, included in the cycle is being tested by those vows. Shiva is all forward progress, and every instance of temporarily falling back, as we all sometimes do, 2 steps forward, 1 step back. 3 steps forward, 2 steps back. Shiva witnesses whole and complete cycles of learning and growth, all the way through to the triumph of human redemption. And as is depicted in the Shiva Natarav, Shiva is voluntary self-control, balance, dynamic equilibrium, all of which are carried to their highest point where they become effortless and full of joy. One of the aspects of Shiva is that of the ferocity of Rudra, the storm god. But as Albert Einstein has said in the Aquarian Almanac quote for Thursday, the 27th, the Lord God is subtle, but malicious he is not. So meet the family. This is Brahma, Vishnu, and Shiva, and Saraswati, Lakshmi, and Kali. And apparently this is a grand occasion in honor of Lord Ganesh, who happens to be Shiva's son. Lord Ganesha is the elephant-headed god, and he happens to be the remover of obstacles. Now, we mentioned before in another slide that Shiva indeed is in another part of himself, Vishnu, and yet in another part of himself, he is Brahma. I'd like to read a little bit from H.P. Blavatsky, where she's talking about the sublime concept of Svayambhu. And it has to do with these three pairs, Brahma, Vishnu, Shiva, and Sarasvati, Lakshmi, and Kali. She writes, what in reality is Brahma, Vishnu, and Shiva? The threefold ray issuing directly from the light of the universe. Svayambhu, that is, from the power or the spirit that gives life to and fecundates matter, which has been personified in Sarasvati, Lakshmi, and Kali, which are the three representations of Prakriti, matter, the three goddesses of the three gods. These three pairs, which have been synthesized in Svayambhu, the unmanifested deity, are the symbols that personify his unseen presence in all the manifestations of nature. In short, Brahma and Sarasvati, Vishnu and Lakshmi, Shiva and Kali represent in their totality spirit and matter in their threefold quality, that of creation, preservation, and destruction. Svayambhu is the first emanation or ray of Parabrahm, attribute-less divinity, the first breath of its spirit. It is Trimurti, the synthesis of the three spiritual powers in union with the three material powers. In ancient India, HPV continues, religion was closely tied with the contemplation of nature. Universal truths and the very essence of truth were personified in deity. Every manifest truth, no matter what it consisted of, had a direct relationship to divinity or self-existent truth. In the strange mythology of the Brahmanas, which at first glance is still more legendary than Greek mythology, and generally in their still stranger conception of the world, a profound philosophy is concealed, nonetheless. The outer form of idolatry is but a curtain which hides the truth, like the veil of Isis. But this truth is not given to all. For some, the curtain hides not the countenance of Isis, but only empty space disappearing into the impenetrable, for them, darkness. For others, light pours forth from there. For those not endowed by nature with that innate inner sense possessed by some, which the Hindus so rightly call the third eye or the eye of Shiva, it is by far better to be content with the fantastic patterns on the curtain. For such there is no penetrating into the depth of the impenetrable darkness, no filling of empty space. But he who has the third eye, or speaking more clearly, who is capable of transferring his vision from the grossly objective on to the purely inner ground, that one shall see light within the darkness, and in the seeming emptiness discern the universe. That is beautiful writing.
Mm-hmm.
Shiva's immensity of perspective is found in the discourse of Vasunda to the sage Vasistha. Vasunda is a name for the immovable Shiva, the witness of all cycles. And there's a story in the Yoga Vasistha, which is actually a subsection of the Ramayana, just as the Gita is a subsection of the Mahabharata. There's a section in there which talks about Vasistha's interview with this great bird, looks like a crow or a raven, who sees all cycles. So this bird has perched himself. He's an ancient bird, but he's perched himself in an equally ancient but very large wish-fulfilling tree called a kalpa tree, presumably because it survives the kalpas and the cycles. So Vasunda says, you see, this kalpa tree whereon we dwell stands firm and unshaken amidst the revolutions of ages and the all-destroying blasts of tempests and conflagrations. This great arbor, this great tree, is inaccessible to beings who dwell in other worlds. Therefore, we reside here in a perfect peace and bliss, apart from all disturbance. So stable is this tree that there's no danger, O sage, that can betake us here, just as there is no evil that can betide the inhabitants of heaven. How can we, O great sage, ever be exposed to any danger, abiding in this tree, which defies all calamities? We are beyond all fears and dangers, like those who dwell in heaven. Vashishta asked of this bird, tell me, O wise one, who has borne the blast of dissolution? How have you remained unharmed and undisturbed while many a sun and moon and hosts of stars have fallen and faded away? So Basunda replies, he says, when at the end of a Kalpa age, the order of the world and the laws of nature are broken and dissolved, and we are compelled to forsake our abode, like a man departing from his best friend. We then remain in the air, freed from all mundane conceptions. The members of our bodies becoming devoid of their natural functions, and our minds released from all volitions. When the zodiacal suns blaze forth in their full vigor, melting down the mountains by their intense heat, I remain with intellect fixed in the Varuna mantra. When the diluvian winds burst with full force, shattering and scattering the huge mountains all around, it is by attending to the Parvati mantra that I remain as stable as a rock. When the earth with its mountains is dissolved into the waters, presenting the face of a universal ocean, it is by the volatile power of the Vayu mantra that I bear myself aloft. I then convey myself beyond this perceptible world and rest in the holy ground of pure spirit. I remain as if in profound sleep, unagitated in body or mind. I abide in this quiescence until the lotus-born Brahma is again employed in his work of creation. And then I re-enter the confines of the recreated world, where I settle again on this tree. Because of the endless horizon of perspective and the universal self-consciousness of Shiva, sages such as Vasista, and even the almighty, not almighty, but the mighty Mahatmas are in absolute reverence of Shiva in whatever form it takes. Even these Mahatmas, who are possessed of immense powers, who do so much for humanity in their capacity as bodhisattvas, who are revered by theosophists and mystics alike, ceaselessly bow down to Shiva, for they are in a state of total awe before the immensity of the boundless mental horizon of Shiva. The higher the Mahatma, the greater the reverence. Shiva is depicted as Dakshinamurti, the south-facing guru of gurus, the initiator of initiates in the temples of South India. As such, Shiva is the teacher of the highest beings in evolution, who sit together like brothers in a sublime field of gratitude, eager and ready to make a new start in the service of humanity. And there is a wonderful hymn, and it's called the Hymn to Dakshinamurti, and it is composed by Sri Shankaracharya. And Monica, could you read that for us?
Absolutely. Hymn to Dakshinamurti. Aum. Longing for emancipation, I seek refuge in that self-luminous one who projected Brahma in the dawn of manifestation and revealed to him the meaning of the Vedas, and whose inspiration turns my attention towards the Atman. May peace, physical, mental, and spiritual, be on us forever. The cosmos is like a city reflected in a mirror, seen as if inside, but really outside it. As in a dream, it is an internal activity appearing outside, but actually inside. The truth is the supreme Brahman, one without a second. Atman is its reflection, seen through the media of the senses, mind, and intellect. The identity of the supreme Brahman and one's Atman is realized through self-illumination. He by whose grace that illumination comes to me, to that Dakshinamurti, the Supreme Being embodied as the auspicious and benign Guru, I offer my profoundest salutation. He in whom this cosmos, prior to its projection, was rendered manifold through the magic of self-volition, in the manner of a mighty yogi with the ceaseless energy of ideation. To that Dakshinamurti, the Supreme Being embodied as the auspicious and benign Guru, I offer my profoundest salutation. He in whom this cosmos prior to its projection was rendered manifold through the magic of self-volition, in the manner of a mighty yogi with the ceaseless energy of ideation, to that Dakshinamurti, the Supreme Being embodied as the auspicious and benign Guru, I offer my profoundest salutation. He by whose light the unreal cosmos appears as almost real, who graciously conveys the truth of Brahman, who is known through apprehending the meaning of the mighty utterance, Tat Tvam Asi, which realization alone terminates the cycle of samsara. To that Dakshinamurti, the Supreme Being embodied as the auspicious and benign Guru, I offer my profoundest salutation. He whose luster gleams through the senses, such as the eyes, like the light emanating through myriad holes in a pot holding a brilliant lamp. He whose wisdom alone shows the mode of knowing signified by the true awareness of I know. He whose luminosity alone makes everything else shine. To that Dakshinamurti, the Supreme Being embodied as the auspicious and benign Guru, I offer my profoundest salutation. Vociferous pseudo-philosophers view the body, life breath, senses of perception and organs of action, fleeting cognitions and total non-existence as I, Atman. Their power of comprehension is comparable to that of feeble women and fickle children, the blind and the dull-witted. He who destroys this stupendous delusion caused by the inscrutable power of Maya, to that Dakshinamurti, the Supreme Being embodied as the auspicious and benign Guru, I offer my profoundest salutation. As the brilliance of the sun or the moon exists even when intercepted by Rahu during an eclipse, the power of cognition remains suspended from the senses and the mind during sleep. The Purusha, or the self, exists as the pure being unrecognized through Maya's veiling power. On waking, he becomes aware that he himself was asleep earlier. Similarly, the man of realization, on waking to the pure consciousness of the self, recognizes his ignorance as a past event and an apparent phenomenon. He by whose grace the realization of the true nature of the Atman comes to me, to that Dakshinamurti, the Supreme Being, embodied as the benign and auspicious Guru, I offer my profoundest salutation. He whose existence and reality shine always and uniformly in various states, such as infancy and wakefulness, and who conveys the exalted knowledge of the Atman through the auspicious Jnana Mudra, to that Dakshinamurti, the Supreme Being embodied as the auspicious and benign Guru, I offer my profoundest salutation. He by whose power of Maya the world is experienced during both waking and dreaming in all their variations in cause-effect relations, such as that of master and servant, teacher and disciple, father and son, to that Dakshinamurti, the Supreme Being embodied as the auspicious and benign Guru, I offer my profoundest salutation. The moving and non-moving universe is but his subtle and unmanifest eightfold form: earth, water, fire, air, sky, sun, moon, and the Jivatman. He by whose grace all these manifestations disappear with the realization nothing exists except the Supreme Brahman. To that Dakshinamurti, the Supreme Being embodied as the auspicious and benign Guru, I offer my profoundest salutation. The omnipresence of the Atman is clearly conveyed in this hymn. Through recitation and hearing and by meditation on its inmost meaning, the devoted disciple attains to that omnipresent Atman and fully achieves oneness with it, including the unhindered lordship over the whole cosmos, becoming the very essence of the eightfold manifestation shown above. He enjoys the plenitude of realization and spiritual bliss.
You have the epilogue.
Oh, the epilogue. I bow down to Dakshinamurti, Lord and teacher of all three worlds, who dexterously cuts asunder the painful shackles of birth and death, and who is to be deeply contemplated. Oh, the wondrous splendor beneath the banyan tree. There sits Guru Deva, a youth. The disciples are elders. The teaching is silence, and all doubts are dispelled.
Thank you so much, Monica. So we can ask ourselves, what does it mean when we say that the teacher is a youth and that the disciples are elders and the teaching is silence? Could it be that the disciples themselves are wise beings, that they are protective elders in relation to orphan humanity? Could we say that the teacher, the initiator of initiates, embodying universal self-consciousness, embodying unconditional attributeless compassion, embodying abstract dimensionless truth, embodying unconditional love, that such a being would always be eternally young, ever fresh, always creative, and the teaching itself being silence? Could that refer to the ideal fruit of any true teaching, namely the dissolution of the personal ego? Could it be that Shiva, as Dakshinamurti, the archetypal renunciate, the exemplar of tapas par excellence, is capable of kindling the fire of self-imposed, self-induced, and self-devised discipline, and not only in his disciples, but in all of humanity? Even the Mahatmas, who are possessed of immense powers, who do so much for humanity in their capacity as bodhisattvas, and who are reared by theosophists and mystics alike, ceaselessly bow down to Shiva. Monica, would you do us the honor of reading this section from the Secret Doctrine? Can you see it from there?
Yes. From HBB, the great sacrifice. He is the initiator called the great sacrifice. For sitting at the threshold of light, he looks into it from within the circle of darkness, which he will not cross, nor will he quit his post till the last day of this life cycle. Why does the solitary watcher remain at his self-chosen post? Why does he sit by the fountain of primeval wisdom, of which he drinks no longer, as he has naught to learn which he does not know? I, neither on this earth nor in its heaven, because the lonely, sore-footed pilgrims on their way back to their home are never sure to the last moment of not losing their way in this limitless desert of illusion and matter called earth life. Because he would fain show the way to that region of freedom and light from which he is a voluntary exile himself, to every prisoner who has succeeded in liberating himself from the bonds of flesh and illusion. Because, in short, he has sacrificed himself for the sake of mankind, though but a few elect may profit by the great sacrifice. It is under the direct, silent guidance of this Maha, great Guru, that all the other less divine teachers and instructors of mankind became, from the first awakening of human consciousness, the guides of early humanity. It is through these sons of God that infant humanity got its first notions of all the arts and sciences, as well as of spiritual knowledge, and it is they who have laid the first foundation stone of those ancient civilizations that puzzle so sorely our modern generation of students and scholars. H.P. Blavatsky.
Beautiful. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
So this great sacrifice is something that's universal and is archetypal. And B.P. Wadia writes of sacrifice itself, the performance of yajna, or sacrifice, is the means whereby the good and pious soul who has hitherto undergone human evolution on the path of forthgoing, Pavriti Marga, enters the Nivriti Marga, the path of return. Remember the RE words. No more need he propitiate the devas by rites and ceremonies, following the precedent of Daksha, the archetypal ritualist and procreator of the good but mortal man. He now comes under the regenerative power of the Egyptian Thoth, the thrice great Hermes, Shiva Mahadeva, the Mahayogi, the patron saint of all yogis, the archetypal renouncer, the teacher par excellence of immortality. So we ask, could it be that the whole of humanity is now entering this path of Nivriti Marga, the path of return? Simply being good and pious, no matter where you are from, no matter what religion to which you subscribe, is no longer working. We see the work of Shiva, of Rudra, the destroyer everywhere. Everything is dissolving right before our eyes. All of our institutions, all of what we thought were our alliances, all aspects of society's persona to which we have pledged fealty are becoming shattered, dissolved, annihilated. The corruption of governments is being exposed. The corruption of traditional alliances between governments and non-governmental organizations is being exposed. The corruption of the relationship of governments to the military-industrial complex in all nations is being exposed. The corruption in virtually all religious institutions is being exposed. The corruption of transnational corporations is being exposed. The corruption of corporate media, doesn't matter if they act like they're on the left or the right, or supposedly liberal or conservative. The corruption of the media, who are supposed to be keeping track of all this, they are being exposed to be the most corrupt of all. Thanks to Lord Shiva, we have the sublime chaos of the internet with its myriad of unfiltered podcasts, newscasts, and unpredictable perspectives to current events, showing us, as Shelley would say, that the mask has fallen. And Eknash Ithvaran writes in his treatment of the Bhagavad Gita, and specifically in relation to chapter 16, he writes, even here, amidst the gloom and doom, Krishna will not say that such a soul is eternally damned. Maybe that such a sinful creature condemns himself to birth after birth in harsh, unfavorable circumstances, sinking into more and more hellish states of mind. But the cycle goes on. The choice to change direction is always open. And the Atman itself can never be stained. This forced exposure to harsh circumstances is necessary if such an incorrigibly selfish and cruel personality is to learn to be sensitive to suffering and not go on causing it to others. This is the first step in its regeneration. Sri Raghavanaya writes, Shiva, the regenerator, the greatest lover and the sovereign ascetic, redeems all beings with unbounded compassion because he is attached to no particular form. He is the master of tapas, self-conquest through meditation. Monica, can you read that, or is that just too small?
No, I think I think it's okay.
This is something from Sri Muruganar, and he's a devotee of Sri Ramana Maharshi.
Maharshi. Tapas, well considered, the distinctive mark of consummate tapas comes to this: the steady, unbroken current of awareness that this bewildering, variegated crowd of world appearances is all self-made, concealing and revealing but the self. True tapas, which establishes one in the self supreme, is but the concentrated bliss of pure awareness, silently experienced as Shiva. Birds in the air and fish in water dart and leave no track behind, and none can see the path pursued by those that journeyed towards and attained the self. To recognize through reason the supreme, and in the heart renounce the relative, to act without a sense of I and mine, is the sage's way of life divine.
There's a lot there.
Wow.
So what is, like, for example, what does it mean to leave no track behind? Does that mean that the ego is dissolved and has therefore become traceless? And what is this true tapas, which establishes one in that self supreme, which is silently experienced as Shiva? Again, silence, bliss, pure awareness. But how does this tapas actually work? There must be some kind of inner process, some kind of method of self-purification and self-renewal, a process wherein there is unlearning and a letting go, while at the same time, there's that within us which abides and doesn't even feel the cleaning. Perhaps HPB's The Voice of the Silence is instructive in this regard. The lamp burns bright when wick and oil are clean. To make them clean, a cleaner is required. The flame feels not the process of the cleaning. The branches of a tree are shaken by the wind. The trunk remains unmoved. Here's a quote from Damodar K. Mavalamkar about tapas. And he goes into what he and his teachers call will, which is really the first principle in occultism. And this invokes the practice of tapas and becoming a tapasvin or tapasvini. Tapas, I have a few words on tapas, but why don't we read this this selection from Damodar. Are you okay, Monica, to read this?
Mm-hmm,
Thank you so much.
Okay. Tapas, heat, and etherealization. The action of the centripetal force is strong, and it keeps up together the particles of ice. It requires the action of centrifugal force, which is done by the supply of heat. If that piece of ice be left in a cold place, it will remain so until by accident sun's rays might penetrate there, or in some such way heat might be supplied. Just so then with man. The action of the centripetal force keeps us to our gross forms. And if we have to etherealize ourselves, we must supply the centrifugal force, which is our will. And this is the first principle of occultism. Just as the etherealization of our souls is the result of the action of our will, so is everything the result of something else. The action of the working of the circle of matter is regulated by the law of cause and effect. Nothing can be without it. And everything is at the same time in itself a cause and an effect. Take, for instance, heat. It is the cause of the melting of ice into water, and at the same time, it is the result of some other force. It did not come out of nothing. Then how can we etherealize ourselves? By studying the action of causes and effects and acting accordingly. Or, in other words, by obtaining knowledge of the forces of nature. In one word, by studying occultism.
Thank you so much, Monica.
Thank you.
So notice how these teachers are kind of strict, kind of Shiva-like. So tapas is heat, and it's also the application of heat. And this word tapas is based on the word tap, which means to heat, to give out warmth, to shine, to burn. Tapas is taking responsibility. Tapas is seeing everything that happens in all circumstances as opportunity to learn. Tapas is the fearless asking of authentic questions. Tapas is turning around. Tapas is having a mature perspective on the two twins, pleasure and pain. Tapas is using the imagination and powers of reason to arrive at the realization that one really has it quite easy relative to so many. Tapas involves solitude. Tapas involves not being afraid of death. Tapas is a commitment to a disciplined monasticism, albeit of a secular sort. Tapas involves inner heat and inner conservation of energy. Tapas involves penance, pious activity, and honest meditation. Tapas involves creative suffering, but for the sake of humanity. Tapas is the heat necessary for birth. Tapas is the heat of brooding over eggs like birds, essential for hatching and birth. Tapas is burning away past karma. Tapas is emulating the sun's tapas, magnanimously yielding warmth and light for all, yet taking from none. If our tapas runs the risk of being merely mechanical and therefore not entirely real, the remedy for this is true reverence, sacrifice, and meditation on Brahman. Tapas entails simple living, having very few desires. Tapas is an inner elegance, uncluttered by too much emotional baggage. Less is more. Tapas is one of the niyamas in Patanjali's Yoga Sutras. Tapas is the dignity of voluntary brahmacharya. As M.K. Gandhi says in one of the quotes for this week in the Aquarian Almanac, Jiva becomes Shiva, I should say Jiva, to realize that everything rests in Brahman is to attain the state of Brahman. Then Jiva becomes Shiva. The universe grows I. and these universal teachings of Theosophy become a living power in our lives. Sri Raghavan writes, through continuity of consciousness, there is a radical healing that takes place within one's whole nature and an authentic gain in self-respect. It is a difficult discipline initially, but if one faithfully keeps at it in a non-strenuous way, doing it only out of love for one's fellow men and out of gratitude to one's teachers, there will be infallible help from the eye of Shiva and the flute of Krishna. If the motive is to make a potent contribution to the grandchildren of one's grandchildren, and if one lets go of the myopic tension of the personal self, then the sense of the sacred deepens until one is able to make holy resolves and charge them with a silent power for good. And we will close with a couple of readings from Mahatma K.H. Monica, are you up for reading them?
Sure.
It's 2 more slides. This one and
No
another
worries. Thank you for letting me do. Whisperings of Buddhi. As the lost jewel, may he, recovered from the very depths of the tank's mud, so can the most abandoned snatch himself from the mire of sin, if only the precious gem of gems, the sparkling germ of the Atma, is developed. Each of us must do that for himself. Each can, if he but will and persevere. Good resolutions are mind-painted pictures of good deeds, fancies, daydreams, whisperings of the Buddhi to the manas. If we encourage them, they will not fade away like a dissolving mirage in the Shamo desert, but grow stronger and stronger until one's whole life becomes the expression and outward proof of the divine motive within. Mahatma K.H.
And there's one more. Okay.
Holy striving. There are innumerable pages of your life record still to be written up. Fair and blank they are as yet. Child of your race and of your age, seize the diamond pen and inscribe them with the history of noble deeds, days well spent, years of holy striving. So will you win your way ever upward to the higher planes of spiritual consciousness. Fear not, faint not, be faithful to the ideal you can now dimly see. Mahatma K.H.
Good. Okay, we can open up the meeting for questions and answers. Oh, there's not much time. Somebody did too long of a presentation.
It was good.
I don't know who that some person is. Vijay, would you mind panning the camera so that if Monica comes here,
Okay.
then you can just pan it out just a little bit so the camera can see both of us.
How much time do you think we have, like, for 2 or 3? Or
Yeah, 2 or 3, just something like that.
Okay, very good. Well, wonderful. All right. Thank you so much, Jonathan. What a remarkable presentation. Magnificent. And so we open up to questions in spite of the little time that is left. But I see Judy Saltzman has her hand up. Judy, hi there.
Yes, hello, Jonathan. Thank you for a wonderful presentation. And Shiva is timeless. You can take all the time you want. It's the greatest misunderstanding about Shiva in the West is the use of the Shiva lingam. There's always one out in front of a temple, and you see them in India. And of course, it's an erect male phallus. And this really shocked the missionaries. But this is not a phallic religion. It's really a representation of an infinite pillar of energy in the universe. You could say Fohat or whatever, their divine power in all of us. In this case, it's representing male divine power. And I know Professor Raimundo Panikkar at UC Santa Barbara told an amazing, very short story. There was always these stories about temples in which untouchables were not allowed to enter at one time. It's now illegal in India to do that, but there was a lady who was very poor. She couldn't go in the temple because she was non-caste, untouchable, and so she was having lunch one day outside the temple, and she had her feet stretched out toward the Shiva lingam, and a Brahmin walked by and upbraided her and said, "Madam, you must not stretch your feet out toward this sacred lingam." And she said, "Oh, Brahmin, show me a place where Shiva is not." So,
Ah,
great stories about these put downs. So, in a sense, we could say Shiva is an all pervasive power and includes not only destruction but regeneration, and yet is not as popular a god as Vishnu. And I don't fully understand why that is, but there are more Vaishnavites than Shaivites in India. So thank you for your presentation. I think we need to go on.
thank you. Thank you very much, Judy. Meluka, you have your hand up.
Hi, Jonathan. Really, absolutely beautiful. It's so much to absorb. I'm kind of overwhelmed because you gave us so much to think about it and so much to work on because, we all have our own, have to do our own, what do you call it, development. And sometimes it takes a lot of obstacle to get where we want to go as part of the test. I just want to mention that we talked a couple of days ago about Saturn and the connection with Shiva. And as we know, we are going, just like the pandemic times, that we have this amazing parade of planets, conjunctions. And we recently have, one day after the inaugural, the 7-planet conjunction. And on the 24th, we're going to have an 8-planet conjunction, which is very amazing. The 7-plane conjunction, it happened 200 years ago, and the 8 many more years than that. So something very important is happening with humanity and our transformation. I know we're going to go through hard times. I just hope that we don't lose the freedom of religion, because there is an agenda of Christian, and they have millions of Bibles distributed to school, and and I hope that we don't lose our freedom of religion and other things too. But at the same time, as bad things to be, and this Shiva reforming and Saturn with the other planets. Saturn is working with Mercury, which is really good, because hopefully we get wiser. But the thing that is interesting is that we are also uniting. I mean, I think people start leaving aside what political party you are, and there seems to be a more unity now among some people. And I think we sometimes need this kind of reform to wake up, and hopefully, since it's just when the pandemic happened, we have a lot of this kind of situation too. We not always agree to one another, but it's just a learning lesson. And Shiva, what a timely talk, because we really needed this at this hour. We needed this talk, Jonathan. Thank you so much, and Godspeed.
Thank you. Thank you, Meluka. I just wanted to offer a couple of ideas here. One is that, Shiva sometimes gets a bad name because it's looked at or referred to as the power of a destruction. Mm-hmm. And I'm so grateful, Jonathan, that you've given this presentation, to make it even clearer, put the words out into the ether, that it how important this particular aspect of the power is. I know in some theosophical circles, I heard the idea that Shiva was very much the patron of esotericists. Mm. And it is that force which takes us out of the dead letter. Mm. And of course, everything happens by law and cycles. And so people are not, it's not that it's torn away from us when we are not ready, but part of the function of that force is to, we somehow have made ourselves available to the esoteric beyond the exoteric. So I'm very, very grateful for that. Oh, and the protective power that Shiva is in regard to even the most physical circumstances. I know during 9/11 in New York, I heard of there was a school in the area that children who were new to the country and worked in those buildings, whose parents worked in that area, they engaged in the mantra Om Namah Shivaya, this group of children, and they were running in the wrong direction when 9/11 hit. And the story was that they heard the mantra Om Namah Shivaya that turned them around and guided them to run in the right direction away, because they were just children who were new to the area and did not know. So we are very fortunate for this power, but to know about it even more. So that's all I wanted to say. And thank you again, Jonathan. We have Desiree, you have your hand raised. Hi, Des.
Hi. Thank you so much, Jonathan. That was beautiful, so impactful. But I wrote down, what was it? Sri Muruganar? What was his name?
Yeah, that's what it was, yes. With that poem.
Yeah, what a beautiful poem. And I just wrote down the last words. To be without a sense of I and mine is the sage's way of life divine. It's so beautiful. Thank you for sharing that. And I also want to thank Monica. Boy, you had your job cut out for you today. Thank you so much. It's always a wonder. It's always just beautiful to hear your wonderful voice. So,
namaste.
Thank
Amazing gift that Jonathan gave me here, and all of you as well. Thank you. Okay, do we have any? Oh, Ken, yes.
Yes, Jonathan, you had a quote that said that from about the great sacrifice. I think it's Blavatsky.
Yeah,
saying that Shiva has voluntarily, allowed himself to be in the world of flesh and form and manifestation as a great sacrifice. And to me, that sounds like an antidote to the Buddhist idea of the Bodhisattva.
Yeah.
Is there a connection there?
Yeah, I think so. The great sacrifice. I mean, for theosophists over the last 150 years and worldwide, that whole section about the initiate of initiates and the great sacrifice and the watcher and all that is probably one of the most moving passages, in the secret doctrine. It just means so much. It's just so deep and so, like you say, bodhisattvic. At any minute, effortlessly, this being could enter the light.
Wow.
But why does he not do it?
He stayed back behind.
Yeah, because he stays back because of the sore-footed pilgrims.
That passage.
Isn't that something?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's quite clearly a very Buddha-like sacrifice and Buddhism like sacrifice.
Very good.
Yeah, thanks for the question.
Okay, so if I think that's all for this evening. So we'd like to say thank you for being with us this evening, Jonathan. Just amazing presentation.
Next week we have the science of spirituality.
The science of spirituality. Please come back and be with us. Dr. Campos, is that
Yes.
you're up at bat then? So that's going to be given to us by Dr. Ken Campos. So
And-
come back and be with us, everyone.
And Gene Jennings he has agreed to chair.
Oh,
that.
great, fantastic.
Mhm.
So
Thank you,
Dr.
Monica, too. And all of you, brothers and sisters, bless your heart.
Thank you.
and this with you as
everyone.
everyone.
Thank you. You came late, but it was a great share.
Okay.
Wonderful.
Take good
Nice to see
care.
you.
Yes, Alexis. Take care. Bye, all.